Hello, everyone. I'm Horton Hype, and this is Johnny Horton, Echoes of History, where we take a deep dive into the life, legacy, music of rockabilly, those electrifying voices. I'm your host, Horton Hype. This one's going to be a little different. First of all, let me introduce myself. My real name is Ed. We're stepping into something deeper here, something heavier. Because as much as we're here to celebrate Johnny's music, I think it's just as important to talk about why this podcast is existing. This episode is about the silence that followed a legend that was lost, and the tragedy that in many ways robbed us of more than a man and a guitar. So let's get into it. Segment 1 is called The Lost Highway. Johnny Horton didn't just sing about history, he became part of it. But the road that carried him there, it ended way too soon. On November 5th, 1960, Johnny was driving back from the Skyline Club, the same venue that Elvis and Hank Williams played. That night, he was driving his Cadillac home. He was struck by a drunk driver. Johnny died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital at 1:45 a.m. His bandmates Tommy Tomlinson and his manager Tillman Franks were badly injured. You hear that, you just kind of shake your head. But when you feel it, when you realize how much music never got made, how many stories never got told, that's when the heartbreak really hits. They used to call Johnny the singing fisherman, but by the time he really hit his stride, he was much more than that. He was on fire. He was topping the charts, touring nonstop, recording hit after hit, and then silence. It was like we went from springtime in Alaska, bright, warm, full of sunrise, promise, to whispering pines, soft snowflakes blowing into the wind. We can't let that whisper fade away. Because once it fades, so does his legacy. That's why this podcast exists. Crank up the volume to echo his story loud enough that it never goes away. It took a legend. So let's not sugarcoat this part, folks. What happened to Johnny Horton wasn't just a tragedy. It was the music the world lost. A legend before the world even had a chance to fully catch up to him. That night, a drunk driver, gone, 35 years old, just like that. A father, a husband, a pioneer, and all we got were headlines and silence. His bandmates, Tommy Tomlinson, Tillman Franks, they survived. They were badly injured. And for them, the road got that much softer, quieter. And here's the part that sticks with me the most. Johnny had a fear of dying in a car crash. He even went as far as saying he'd be killed by a drunk driver. Sound familiar? Sure, Columbia put out a few singles. We got some overdub tracks, a couple of greatest hits records. But that flame, that spark Johnny lit, didn't get passed on the way it should have. There was no tribute concert, no museum wing, no Lifetime Achievement Awards. Just a whisper and a fade. That's what's always bothered me. Because when a voice like Johnny Horton's goes quiet, that silence shouldn't be permanent. It should echo, should be heard. And that's what we're doing here. We're amplifying that echo. But here's the part that really gets under my skin. Johnny Horton's not in the Grand Ole Opry. He's not in Country Music Hall of Fame. He's never been nominated. Let that sink in. Now I ask you, is someone with that kind of voice, that kind of vision, that kind of power just vanish from the conversation? Why don't more people talk about Johnny Horton? Why isn't his name etched in the Mount Rushmore of country music, right next to Hank, Patsy, and Johnny Cash? That's the tragedy. That's the real loss. And that's why this show exists. After Johnny died, something strange happened. Not only did we lose a legend, it's like the whole world just moved on. One of the most influential voices in the early country and rockabilly history, a man who shaped modern country music, is still waiting to be honored. What's up with that? Why? For every fan who knows the Battle of New Orleans, there's someone who never heard All for the Love of a Girl, or Comanche the Brave Horse, or the real rare one, The Streets of Dodge. There's a younger generation that doesn't know Johnny wasn't just country. He was rockabilly, gospel, folk. A man who turned history, music, and that shook your soul. It took a legend. And then it took too long to remember him. But not anymore. This podcast, this project, this movement is our way of turning up the volume on a story that's been silent for way too long. And if you're listening, you're already part of it. Before we wrap up, I want to speak truly from the heart. This podcast wasn't built in a studio. It wasn't planned in a meeting. I mean, look around. I'm sitting on a couch holding a guitar with a speaker next to me. It was born in a back room surrounded by old records, yellow newspaper clippings, and a voice that never left me. This comes from hurt, from grief, from wondering why so many people forgot, and why no one had done this sooner. This podcast isn't just about rare songs and deep cuts. It's about keeping a legacy alive, louder than the silence that followed Johnny's death. We're building it from scratch. I'm building it from scratch. But we're not doing it alone. Every like, every view, every subscriber, that's fuel, that's proof That's you joining the journey. So if you ever felt forgotten, if you ever held a record and thought, this song was made just for me that song is Whispering Pines, then you already understand why this matters. Let's not let this man's legacy fade away. Let it live on, echo through the ages. Long live the music. Long live Johnny Horton. This has been Johnny Horton, Echoes of History. And I'm not letting go till the world remembers what we lost. So remember to hit that like button and subscribe at youtube.com, capital Horton, capital Hype. I'm Ed. From now on, Horton Hype. Horton Hype out.